That's one of the benefits of doing it that way.
The downside is I had to, how do I log into Google again? Oh yeah.
So if there are no further changes, I would entertain a motion to accept them.
Motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? So, Jack, you would need to abstain because obviously you weren't here last week.
I was here. Oh, no, I wasn't here for the full meeting. Yeah, I abstained.
You have to be in attendance to be able to vote on, so we do have one abstention.
So there were corrections that were made.
Yes, there was a correction to, thank you for.
Lines 118 through 120.
And it was.
Because I had sent a couple corrections to Michelle.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it, but that's all right. I'll get them. I'll get them.
Should we unapprove them?
Well, we should at least know what the changes are. So there was a change to page 3. Mr. Hodgkins asked how experience is helpful. He noticed that a person does not have to have accounting experience to be on the committee. He commented, if he looks at what the town is spending and does not agree, he would like to be able to vote no. And if he agrees, he would like to be able to vote yes. So that was just a correction of what Mr. Hodgkins had put forward. And do you have a note of what your changes are?
Well, there was just one. It said serving on the budget committee until March 2020. It should have been 2019.
Yes, I didn't catch that, and I forgot to mark that up.
And then there was just a couple, the counts on who abstained and whatnot was off.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can send it again, but I sent
that's
it
okay.
to you. And then there was just a couple things where it was like the wrong person was put in, like who motioned and stuff like
Sometimes I
that.
can't hear.
Right. And that's why
So this is,
yeah.
Right, 2019. I'm
Yep.
sorry about that. Yeah.
that one I did notice and I forgot about.
Yeah, I'll get those in the morning on my other drive.
Yes.
I have 2 emails, so probably didn't check it. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of
Just
hard
like
for me to hear. I
who
apologize.
abstained on the votes and such. Like Mr. Brunel had abstained on one, it wasn't on there. Like the counts didn't add up. And then just like I don't know how important it is, but like
No, it's
at
important.
the end, like who motioned to adjourn? Like it was me, but it wasn't me. I didn't do it.
No, that's fine. Like I said, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard sometimes for me to
Oh, of
hear. I have
course.
one ear that's deaf, so
Yeah, I mean some of it I had to go back and watch the video.
and that's good. That's fine because I want to know that stuff. But you marked it, so I'll catch it.
Anything else? Alrighty.
Yeah, I sent it to your Litchfield NH.
Okay, perfect. I'll take care of that in the morning.
Okay, good. Correspondence, we had several questions that were received that I forwarded on to the town about some of the accounts we're going over tonight. So we do have some of the answers and then others we can answer tonight if there's any that have been missed. The other correspondence we had was about the tax rate was set this week. So that I just, in case anybody wanted to have a discussion on that, the actual little table that was included, and I don't know if you did it, Troy, or
I just typed.
it's
The
off by 10
post.
cents. The actual 2017 rate is off by 10 cents, but the actual increase is the 99 cents and the 4.4% increase. There's just an addition error on the 2017 tax. So if you added it that way, it appears as though it doesn't add up, but it's a typo.
Just a typo then. And I'll let you know, I don't have the exact number, but today there was, or the last 2 days, there was some back and forth between the school department and DRA. And so I know that the statewide, or one of the school impacts changed by a cent.
Okay.
I don't know if it went up or went down, but something changed.
It was catastrophic aid.
Okay.
It was not the town's error. It was just something up at in Concord that they caught.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons, so when we do an estimate of tax impact, Usually we're pretty on with the town. For the schools, what we do is we estimate a $200,000 return at the end of the year. We assume that they're going to underspend by about $200,000. So that can vary greatly depending on what is actually returned. And I believe this year it was in the $600,000 range.
But did that factor in the amount that was spent on the portables and all the warrants too? So let me get this straight. So in addition to paying for the portables and all the warrant articles, we still had a $600,000 underspend.
So that is this year's budget. So June 30th, that amount of money, the 600,000, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, that gets returned to offset taxes. So we haven't actually, 2018 expenditures happen after July 1. So it's separate.
So the 600 he was talking about is in this current budget and not last year's budget?
It's last year's budget, and then it goes to offset the new tax rate.
I don't care when it gets applied to offset. I'm saying that in addition to $600,000 to offset the tax rate, we spent $200,000 on the portables and a bunch of money elsewhere. Well, because it gets put into the technology impact.
I see what you're saying. End of the year, what they spend, right? Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I get crucified when I say that we're over by 200 to 400,000. I just want to put it out there that we need to look at this budget more thoroughly because that's nuts.
Mm-hmm. What it does is, if you don't have that tax reduction every year, you see a tax rate, a school tax rate that fluctuates widely.
And so if we don't spend it down as much, then all of a sudden our taxes go up by an additional 50 cents. That's going to hurt. Where good luck to people with escrow accounts. So all of a sudden their mortgage bills go up to cover the shortage. I mean, that's painful. So we need to be more consistent in keeping that more level funded because that's a lot of money we've taken from I'd say tax the town, but that's your neighbor. Our neighbors are overspending when we don't need to do that. Like we need to be more. We really need to dig into the numbers. And again, as I wanted to explain them last year, it's not last week. It's not a call to spend what we have. I want us to continue to spend what we need, but we need to budget what we need. And we're doing far more than that.
Well, and that's why those calculations of average spending rates are important. And when we ignore those, we over budget. So that's the explanation of where the tax rate came from right now. Is there any more discussion? All right. Then let's jump into the bulk of tonight, which is the town's presentation of their budget.
Okay.
So as I think we talked earlier, we'll start with sanitation, if that makes sense.
Yep. Dave,
David.
or are you on, or are you?
I'll go ahead and I'll just go through the highlights. And
Do you want to introduce Dave just because we
Dave
have a whole new crew here?
you must all know Dave Mellon, but you know.
And speaking to that, I would like to apologize to anybody who ends up with the same question that you got last year, but because we do have a new crew, even though Cindy and I may know the answer, everybody else may not and may want to hear it from you guys.
Yeah.
So I apologize in advance for any questions that I already know the answer to, that you know I know the answer to, but I'd like to share the information.
Okay, so real quickly, sanitation budget, the bottom line, there's a projected increase, a recommended increase of $21,179. The budget as proposed represents $414,964. Primarily the increases that you'll see is in wages. And as some of you may be aware, a few years ago, the town implemented, we went away from a automatic step longevity type increase for wages to a performance review, and raises were granted on merit. So the increases that you see in the wages are all the result of the merit performance reviews that are done on July 1st of each year. So this is our second year. I think that we're going into our third year of the performance reviews. I think Selectman Brunel informed you last week that for health insurance, we don't have the premium rates yet for 2019. So we're just carrying a 10% increase estimate throughout the budget. You'll see that in all the departments that have employees that are eligible for health insurance. We did not project an increase for dental. There's the possibility we could see 1 or 2%, but typically we don't see increases in dental.
So quick question on the health, because it's going to be throughout. Given what we saw last year for an increase, how reasonable is a 10% increase?
I would expect to see, I'm hoping to see somewhere in the range of 5 to, it could be 12%. I'm hoping that we are below the 10%.
I just remember, was it 19% or something?
We had a 22%.
We had a year, yep.
We had a 22% increase last year, and we changed the health insurance provider.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we're going to see a little bit better stability.
Okay.
But health insurance premiums typically do increase each year.
Right.
And we'll be very fortunate if we find something below the 10%.
But I'm just curious if 10% is reasonable or if we should be carrying 15. And so that's where I'm like,
It's just me. I'm just a guess on my part.
no, I understand that.
We hope to
Yeah.
have the real numbers by the end of this month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just want to make sure you have a number to work with.
Oh, absolutely. It's just as I go through it, I want how comfortable do you feel with that? Carrie's going to kill me if I put anything more than 10%. I think it's really 15. Well, let's just go to 15.
Yeah.
So-
I don't think it'd be fair to populate that with a 5% increase.
Okay.
I think it's fair to put a 10% in there.
Okay.
It's reasonable. And then you'll see, I'm not going to go over some of the small minor reductions and increases, but your next significant changes is really in the disposal of our municipal waste, our solid waste, and our construction debris. And so those numbers have changed. The amount of tonnage has increased 3%. We have a contract with Waste Management, and that contract for this year, we have a 3% increase in the hauling cost and 3% in the per ton tipping fee. In addition to the 3% increase in cost, Dave monitors his disposal on a monthly basis, and he goes and takes a look, a 12-month look back, and makes the best determination he can based on current market conditions of the tonnage that we'll be disposing in 2019. So he moves the tonnage up and down based on what he knows. I'll tell you right now, with the economy doing extremely well, you find a lot more activity down at the solid waste facility. People are doing more renovations, they're changing out carpets, they're changing, they're buying more stuff, and that all does result in increased waste.
So, how often are we billed? Because I noticed, I did not look at today's budget, but the budget for last week, we were still at 40% left and 32% left. So
So we're about, 2 months behind or 1 month behind?
1 month behind? And last year we were told there was a 3% increase. So are we just getting a 3% increase?
It's a contract. We have a 3-year contract
Every year?
and 3%. Is it 5?
Okay.
So depending on what's going on with gas prices and stuff like that, they still continue to raise the rates of hauling.
Well, it'll be 3% no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot anyway.
Don't make me.
So just this is a general electricity question. Why did you assume all of the electricity accounts were increased by 5%? Because again, that was something we were told last year.
That 5% is based on an average. If you see, when you pull up my spreadsheet, so I do an actual, and then I do a 12-month run rate. And then I've increased it by 5%. For the last 2 years that I've done that formula, it really comes in pretty much where we end up. It's a good estimate. There was one, the police station town office. I caught that this year and I reduced it, I think, by $1,000. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see a 5% increase, but I'm doing averages, and for the last 2 years, the formula's worked. We've come in on the money almost, except we were $1,000 over on the police station and town office. So we do, and I don't know now with electricity, it's got to the point now where the distribution costs, we purchase our energy through a third-party provider, but, the distribution fees continue to increase by PSNH.
I was going to ask if that 5% factored in the ridiculous increase we saw recently in
Yeah, so
PSNH.
Because I was just looking, so the 2016 actual, the 2017 actual seems to be pretty flat, 6,028, 6,055. So that's why I have that last year you said you were going to see a 5% increase. And so now we're looking at another 5% increase, and it doesn't seem to jive with the fact that the last 2 years anyways have been flat.
So if you're looking at the solid waste, so we had an actual in 16 of 6,000, an actual of 17 of 6,000. The run rate right now is 6,005. Our 3-year average, call it 6,200. And so I'm budgeting 6,500.
So we're at 6,400 now.
Right now?
Here we're at 60. We said,
No, our run rate.
oh, run rate. Okay.
Run rate.
If we keep on going, we are. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to offer, but I don't think I have enough.
It only lasted like 10 minutes.
But it's a long
Couple
10
months
minutes when it's
every
happening.
Again, 2 young boys.
All right. So yeah, we have 32% left of the electricity budget. Is that also a month behind?
Yeah, it's a month behind, and in the summertime, obviously, you've just come off 5 months of longer daylight periods. So here now, the next few months you're behind. In September, October, November, December you're going to be using more energy.
How late do we open?
7, right?
7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Add to that.
okay.
I mean, I think right now the run rate is showing that we're going to spend that amount of money this year. If everything stays consistent.
If everything stays consistent, yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? No? Okay.
Thanks,
you.
Dave. See you, Dave. So if we're good, we can move to town clerk and tax collector?
Yep.
If you got here first, I would have selected you first. Oh, he said something to you on the way out? Come on up.
So we're gonna do town clerk, accounting, and tax collection, those 3 accounts, right?
What's that?
No accounting, okay.
Accounting's a-
Accounting
Not for
separate,
me.
okay.
so I get caught up here. Trying to manipulate 2 spreadsheets at a time. It's not really working out well. We're gonna do town clerk first.
Sure.
414010.
414010.
You okay with that, Terry?
You
I am.
okay?
Troy is.
You want me to take it? Okay. Okay, so it's really important to understand that the positions that are in the town clerk budget and the tax collector's budget, they're shared 50-50. So when you look at these numbers, you have to understand that half the salary, half the benefits are in town clerk, and then the other half in the tax collector. Throws me off every single year we put together the budget. So, but it's the same thing happening here with the town clerk's budget. The wage increases that you see are a result of the performance review done in July. We have a reduction in the clerk wages of $5,000. That was due to some the change we reduced. We had a change in staff, and that's why you see that reduction there. We're back to one full-time deputy, part-time clerk, and the full-time town clerk, tax collector. Carrying the 10% increase in health insurance. And the only other increase I'm seeing, you've got, which actually worked out when Terry and Selectman Brunel made a change to the software. We were projecting a decrease in our software licensing, and you see a $968 savings this year. So that was as planned. We expected to see some savings. Overall, the bottom line of this budget is down $2,707. It's requesting $110,950.
So can you just walk us through, there's, last year there were two positions, tax clerk wages. There were two positions at 23 hours, and this year one of the positions is at 32 hours. So can you just walk us through that change?
Remember how you changed
We last year we tried to bring in someone else to have an additional person, 2 part-time instead of 1 32-hour, and we could not fill the position for what we were offering. So we do have one person that's here 32 hours a week, and she's off Tuesdays, but and myself and Pat. So, but we tried to do 2 positions of 23 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So did that increase then result in costs associated with healthcare and other issues? Is that 32 hours?
No.
It was always
No,
it was
no.
always 32 hours prior to that last year.
Right.
We had to change it. So we're just back to where we were before last year. We proposed the 2 different slots.
Yeah, the person that retired was the same 32 hours, but we were trying to, kind of increase our hours so that it was a little more convenient, have 2 nights open.
Right.
We just couldn't get 2 people for 23 hours as opposed to 1 person for 32, but there's no anything additional, so.
Any questions? Nothing?
Then it would just be the same question on the other ones. You already got the answer.
I know. All right, moving on to tax collection. Pretty much the same.
Yeah, so that would be the same. So a bottom line of $110,100, total reduction of $1,660. It's the same stuff.
Okay. Any questions on this? Okay.
Stay for town meeting just in case there's any questions.
Since that was so
I'm not the
easy.
expert in elections. But if you go to town meeting, which is 4130.30,
That mostly reflects the fewer number of.
so the changes here, obviously got a big decrease of this budget is down $5,472. It's this whole budget is just driven by the cost of labor expense to run elections. Last year we had 4 elections, or in 2018 we had 4 elections. We are going to have 2 elections.
Right. And then in another 2 years, we'll have 4 again.
Yeah, and then it goes up again.
It's one of those weird ones that.
Any questions?
Pretty easy.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Terry.
It's tripping me up.
Okay,
It's
next would be fire.
yeah,
or-
right upside down.
What's fire's number here?
42,
Fire is
20.1.
42.
Do you want to start there? Ambulance.
Which one is that?
Sorry.
Good evening, Chief.
Evening. Evening.
Are you over your shock yet?
You good? You
Good.
You want me to go or you want?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, why don't you start since it's salary?
All right.
And
So basically what you'll see throughout this budget, again, salary increases for the fire chief, the full-time firefighters, and then the call firefighters. So with the full-time firefighters and call firefighters, those are all driven again by the performance reviews. And the fire chief, we've just negotiated a new employment contract. And you'll see that you have a $14,848 increase. We're projecting 5,000 of that is a one-time payment for the extra work that's involved in overseeing the construction of the new station.
so how long are contracts for? Are they 1 year, multi-year,
I think it's a 3-year contract.
This one's 3.
3-year contract?
Will we be able to see a copy of that?
Sure, it's a public document. It can.
Can I also see a cost comparison of the total package value between the previous contract and the proposed contract? I heard there's some other changes, and I'd be interested to see overall cost versus the new cost. 'Cause if we
Changes,
did-
just a
Well, just 'cause if we did
comparison
it-
of benefits?
Yes, because if we did an increase in salary but decreases elsewhere, then the total value of the package is changed.
Mhm.
And you can't really compare apples to apples unless you look at the bottom line.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
Thank you.
And the rest of the stuff, Chief, I think you can go through and just explain, because you've got different things happening here with just
Yep.
operating costs of the department, but
Sure.
then also trying to roll in the cost of, operating a new building, a new facility.
So that's some where the bigger increases are, is utilities and so forth for the newer facility. But I can run down through, because I know there was a couple of questions relative to adjustments and so forth. Right now, we're running 100 calls ahead of last year. We're anticipating being about 120 to 130 calls ahead of last year. So that did increase both the call payroll line, obviously more calls, more need for increased salary. It also has an impact on our dispatching contract, as well as our ambulance contract, which we'll get into in another budget. So we did increase. One of the things that we looked a little closer at, because we've had a couple of years of history now, is the actual number of what we refer to as dispatched calls, meaning fire apparatus and personnel were dispatched versus the on-duty crew or on-call officer handling the incident without a full dispatch and bringing in, multiple members of the department. And that runs about 10%. It fluctuates a little year by year. It's all dependent upon the nature of the calls. So you'll see I'm projecting 700 calls for dispatching purposes, a little more than that, but I'm only putting payroll based on 670, because again, there's a number of calls that are not actually dispatched and don't result in a full payroll for that call. We're either already paying the duty crew who are on duty anyway being paid, or we're paying the one person or maybe two people, depending on the nature of the call, an hour or two, whatever it may be, as opposed to paying the average of 5 to 6 people per call. With the increase, our call firefighters are within the town's wage plan, no different than all other employees. So with the merit increases, what I go on is an average of all employees, and then divided by the 36, I believe it is, employees, because I have no way of telling if 3 of our newest firefighters respond to a call, or 3 of our most senior firefighters or supervisors. So I utilize an average to come up with a number. So that is, again, a fluctuating, moving target. But I went basically from 1775 to 18 with all of the increases within the organization.
So how often are they reviewed, and how, is this a yearly review, or is it
It's the same as the town. They get a performance evaluation every year, and it's the same system. We utilize the same system regardless of the fact that they're part-time or paid on call.
Okay.
So, and it's merit based, again, like the rest of the town system. So that's the 25-cent adjustment from 1775 average in the current 18 budget to the $18 in the 19 budget.
Cindy, I think if you remember, the board will allocate some sums. I think this year was 15,000. That 15,000 is the pool of funds that we do the merit increases on, and any other kind of adjustments are all based on that one time, that lump that we then, cookie brush across all the departments.
So that 15,000, so when it's in the budget, that covers what? Because obviously we're projecting an average of $18 an hour. So then,
the $15,000 covers, and we, at one point in time, we're probably going to have to increase it, but it covers all the non-union employee merit increases and associated costs for New Hampshire state retirement, federal taxes. So what happens is we don't charge against the 15,000. The departments will overexpend their salary lines, but the 15,000 kind of protects the bottom line from going over.
so the average firefighter gets 18 in, September, they get a performance review, they get bumped up, and so that 15,000 pays that difference between that September to the end of the year increase, or?
So, everyone gets a performance review. It's effective July 1st.
Okay.
Okay, so everything's July 1st. And the selectmen will set a maximum amount for, to be awarded. So this year and the prior year was 3%. So anyone could receive anywhere from 0% to 3%. And if you are actually at your max pay rate, you actually don't receive a pay raise, even though you do get a review, but you don't receive because you're at the max rate. So I don't know what the average is. If it's like townwide, if it worked out to be about 2.5%. I've not actually went and done the math to see what the average is, but my guess is it's somewhere around 2.5%. I don't think I answered your question. Are you trying to figure out where the money is coming from? Or
Yeah.
so the $15,000 is there for the performance review. That's
So this budget goes into effect January 1, even though we don't vote on it till March. That's another story. So we they're receiving $18 an hour. July 1, they get a performance review, and
so they get 3%.
And they get great, a review.
They get a 3%.
So they get 3%. So that 15,000, then that's what helps pay that additional from
additional
July
3%.
1 to December.
Yes.
Okay.
As well as so far has been covering our additional costs for New Hampshire state retirement and federal taxes.
And the 18 is again the average. So
Yeah.
it ranges from, I want to say it's like $12.25 to deputies up in the $22, $23 range. So it really depends on how many newer people we have. That number can fluctuate. And then obviously the longer people have been there, that's our probationary rate. Once they've completed their probation, they do jump up a couple of pay grades into the 15, I don't have it in front of me, $15 range. And then we do have as an appendix to the wage plan, town wage plan that we put into effect in 14, John, I think it was. Incentives for advanced certifications. So this, and because they're specific to the fire service, it was easier to do it as an appendix, and it's anywhere from a quarter to 50 cents an hour, depending upon the complexity and the time involved in the certification. So, and that's added in addition to whatever their base rate is. So, and their merit incentive is based on the base rate, not the incentive.
Okay.
I think Cindy, you had, if I recall, a question on on-call stipends.
Yeah, so they get a stipend just to hang around town. And then if they get a call, they get another stipend to go to the call.
They get paid by the hour for the incident.
Oh, okay.
So, and the only change, and we've had the on-call position, on-call program, and what that is during Monday through Friday, during the hours of 8 to 4, we have 2 full-time firefighters, one of them being the deputy fire chief on duty. So they handle pretty much everything during the day. The deputy is the duty officer and responsible for whatever goes on operationally during the day. After hours, there's nobody in the firehouse. We rely solely on on-call firefighters responding to whatever the incident may be. In an effort to have a designated supervisor, a designated manager available, we have an on-call officer. So it's any one of the 4 lieutenants or 2 deputies that are on call during those off hours. So during the week, 4 p.m. to 8 a.m., then on all day on the weekends. That's been working excellent for, and anything that happens, it's more or less their incident to run. So it's an excellent way for them to grow and develop. Obviously, I show up, one of the deputies show up, and we just work with them as opposed to take it over, and then they never get to make the decisions and so forth. One of the things that's kind of slipped through the cracks, and since we've started it, is on the holidays that the town recognizes, there is no staffing at the fire department. So President's Day, Columbus Day. We still have an on-call officer. So they're now covering additional hours, no different than a weekend. So there is an additional $300 to basically bump that, what would be a $20 night, up to a $50 24-hour period. And then if they get a phone call to go out and check, you're burning without a permit. That's the type of call they'll go check, as opposed to sending a truck and 5 people out and at a cost of a couple $100. We're sending out that on-call officer. And then they do get, whatever an hour minimum. Everybody gets paid 1 hour when there is an incident. And then it's, whatever actual time worked. So they do get paid hourly if they're called out. That stipend is more or less to be available, be within 15 minutes. We do give them some latitude to slide down to Hannaford's to get, groceries or dinner or whatever. And then if they, have something come up, they have to go further away, they trade off and swap, and it all comes out in the wash.
So it's only
again.
supervisory personnel.
Yeah, it's only the 2 deputies, the 4 lieutenants, and 2 squad leaders
And
that
they
cover
kind of
those.
rotate. Okay, so because I was trying to figure
So
out
get
if
every
you had a
6th
crew
weekend.
if you have a crew of 10, because don't you run? Don't they have to you have crews that are?
No, any call that's dispatched is open to, anybody to come. Sometimes we get 2, sometimes we get 14. That's the nature of the on-call system.
Okay.
We're fortunate we never, have zero.
Right.
We don't run that issue. But this is basically they're the on-duty or on-call supervisor
Okay.
is what it is.
I was
So-
thinking it was everybody was
No.
on call, and then everybody also gets, and I'm like, wait a minute.
No, it'd be a lot
Okay,
more than
so
that. So it's
just the
one
supervisor
person basically that allows, and it's somebody for Hudson when we're dispatched by Hudson Fire, for those that don't know. When Hudson gets that phone call that it's like, it's not a fire, but they can call the on-call officer and say, hey, I got this call, or, Mrs. Smith called and has this problem, and they'll usually say, okay, I'll go take care of it. And they'll go do whatever needs to be done and so forth, as opposed to, again, sending a truck and 4, 5, 6, 10 people. And, we pay for a lot of hours for something we only needed 1 or 2 people to handle. So
Okay, that explains
it's
it.
actually a budget management tool is what it is.
Yep.
Again, most of the wage stuff, as Troy mentioned, it's based on the wage thing. Fire inspector, I did increase it by a couple of weeks because of the uptick in, back to Troy's point earlier, economy's good, people are doing a lot of stuff. So we're seeing more plans review. We've obviously got some big projects going on. He's heavily involved in the fire side of the fire station, as well as the warehouse down behind the tech park, as well as he's helping pick up some of the load while we're absent a building inspector, as he is cross-trained. Most of the rest of the little upticks are cost increases in our contracts for our training companies to do our required continuing education, as well as costs uptick in actual costs for fire academy programs. Make sure I don't jump over. So electricity, I'll get into the utilities. So as part of the fire station project, within the contract we have with Ekman Construction, the town is responsible for heat in the building once it's enclosed, as well as electricity once we actually get electricity. They just set the poles, the 3 poles within the last week, I believe it was. So they've been working off a generator over there since that project broke ground. So that is something that whether we move in January or we move in July, we have costs already. So the bigger thing, the bigger challenge was estimating what the costs are going to be. We're going from just under a 5,000 square foot building to 11,000 square feet total. I reached out to a couple of departments that are relatively new, so we're kind of keeping the energy efficiency benefits that we're going to see in the new building. I reached out to Pelham and Milton. Pelham's a little bit bigger station and Milton's a little bit smaller. Took their actual costs for the last year and then divided them by their respective square footage and then just multiplied that by 11. If somebody's got a better idea on how to estimate something, I'm all ears. And that's where the numbers came from.
Were their costs to heat and the utilities similar, or were they wide apart?
They weren't, by square foot, they weren't drastically different. I don't remember.
Right. So I'm saying if they're within striking distance of each other, then I'd say that's a reasonable way of approaching it. If they're way apart, well, then
No,
we
they were close enough. I was comfortable using, a middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
I also kept in mind that one is a wood frame, one is a masonry, one is a 24-hour station, one is not. So there's a lot of factors that you really can't draw a true comparison. But rather than just use one, I wanted to kind of to check what they were, and they were, heating systems are radically different in both stations. So there's neither one matches what we're doing any closer than the two match each other. But they were within, a reasonable amount, and I kind of took the middle of both, so.
So does it also include, after turnover, heating the existing fire station?
No, we have moved that to general buildings.
That was
We'll
one
get
of my
into that.
questions. Was like, actually, there's a note right there. Why isn't it moved to general? Perfect.
And we won't kid you, we did that at the board when it came up when I was presenting to the board, so we just took an estimate on that too, so.
So the heating then just reflects fire department usage for next year. So for the first part of the year, it'd be 2 buildings because you still would have the exist. Because when do you move in? Like March.
We're targeting late winter, early,
So for a period of time, you'll have both. So
yeah.
So that's
Again, we just kind of took and I think we can get into it more when we get to general buildings.
But I'm saying
for
for the next year, we shouldn't see the cost of operating 2 fire department buildings in the heating budget or utilities.
For a couple months, it sounds like we will.
Right, the following year.
Oh, the following year.
Once all
Right.
all stripped out.
Depending on what the status of the building is. If it's, if
But it
it's
won't be a
if it's
fire
winterized, it will not
No.
be a fire.
But in this budget, we should only see fire department stuff. So
Right.
that will have been moved to general government buildings
Right.
and we'll deal with that at that time.
So in this budget we're talking about right now,
Mhm.
there is nothing allocated to the current fire station.
Nothing, okay.
Right.
So the
This is all
operating,
projected on the new building.
so then the current fire station gets moved to general government buildings January 1st.
Yes.
So the heating and
I call
utilities.
it the old fire station.
Well, I could call it the old fire
The
station.
old fire
I think
station,
really old.
257
Operating costs.
Charles Bancroft.
Has moved to general government.
So for a period of time, then that budget will be covering operational expenses of the fire department.
Yeah.
Okay.
For whatever, from January 1 to whatever time.
Right, so-
For the building itself, yeah.
But then the following year, that might go down because usage could potentially go down.
Right.
Cold
And
storage
we've-
is a great idea.
We've kind of allowed for, best estimate on a time frame that we're in there, but it's probably safe to say for 9 months, it's going to be empty, and 3 months, we're going to be stuck.
Right, okay.
So, and I've tried to estimate the best we can on that. So,
First year, it's like kindergarten, right? The first year is going to be a best guess. After that, we'll start establishing a trend.
water is quite honestly just estimating $100 a month. We have been fortunate that when we were connected to Pennachuck Water 5 years ago, they, I guess, never found us to put the meter in. So, well, I'm going from 0 to 1,200. I mean, there's got to be some logical explanation, but there is a water meter there. So, we're not sliding under the radar any longer. So, and honestly, that's just a wild guess.
Well, I would think that we might want to look into that number because if you're going to wash your uniforms there, I'm just thinking I pay as a resident, that's twice my bill. And so if yes, I'm a water miser. We only spend less than $50 a month on water. But if you're doubling that, I'm thinking you're going to have to wash all your uniforms and every other use. How is that going to be possible that you only double my bill? Is that a reasonable estimate?
I would think it's a little on the low side because when you talk about washing the vehicles.
Yeah,
cleaning the
washing
bays,
trucks, washing.
So
protective
I would
clothing.
recommend digging into that number a little more because I don't see how possibly you can come in at $100 a month.
Unfortunately,
Not that I'm trying to encourage you to spend more money, but I'd like it a realistic number.
Do we know, what do we draw here in town hall? We don't have wash. I'm just curious what the monthly bill is here.
comparing apples and grapefruit.
Well, I'm just
No,
saying you
I-
have 2 washing. Don't you have 2 sets? You got the specialty washing and then
Yeah,
a regular
So
washing.
there's the extractor and then there's a standard.
And then you got washing
residential
trucks. And you're gonna have regular restrooms.
So we're estimating 210 a month, so.
Here?
For here, yeah.
There's no. I'm just saying. I
just throwing a hose
question
from
the
here.
$100 a month.
And
Is there room in that conduit with the fiber for a hose?
No.
yeah, I don't know how many.
All right,
months,
so-
but
I'll
yeah,
have
it's
to
$100
adjust
bucks.
that. And again, I
It's-
live on
Yeah,
a
it's-
well,
let's
so
call it
I know
$100.
You call it
for family.
$100 a year. 100. If you do $100
without
a month,
irrigation.
well, you can. Yeah.
There's
Well, we
no
have. We
irrigation
can do
going
a
in.
point well for all I care. You-
I'm just saying, a
irrigation.
residential home on Pennachuck is probably $75 to $100 for a
Mhm.
family of 4. That's excluding irrigation.
That's why I question the 100. I don't. I just.
I
Not-
think no. I think you're right. I think we
Not
gotta
that I'm encouraging you to raise the number, but I would like
We
to
gotta
give me a
increase
solid number. To a reasonable, justifiable number. Let's just.
You make that a motion.
I'm sure they can find a few dollars in
Oh,
the
I'm-
budget.
believe me, I'm going easy. I got some other questions here. Hold on. Unfortunately, this is the first budget I looked at, and I just went.
And then some minor uptick in maintenance and cleaning costs. I mean, obviously, we're looking at better than double the size. We're
Well,
gonna
first
need-
year maintenance should be pretty limited.
Yeah, and a
No,
brand
well,
new
more
building.
cleaning and, cleaning supplies, stuff like that. Most of it's going to be under warranty.
But
You will notice in the building maintenance that there's placeholders for a fire alarm sprinkler system and all that, which we won't incur in 18, but they will be there in 19. So it's kind of a reminder for me next year, but also, so that you guys understand those are costs that we're incurring, but we're not incurring in 18. So.
Right.
And there's septic tank cleaning and floor drain cleaning. Is that for the old station?
No, that's for the 3 tanks in the new station.
So next year, in the first year, we'll be cleaning septic and
So the septic is 1,500. The biohazard tank is, I want to say 600. So we really don't know. I mean, we could fill that tank within the year potentially.
But it's mostly water, right? Shouldn't that go through your leach field?
Biohazard can't.
Well, that one can't, but the right standard one.
Right, the septic, and then the floor drains go to an oil water separator and then get captured as well. So.
But yeah, that's gonna be one of those things that we have to figure it out as we go. I would question that you need to empty the standard septic in a year since.
that'll help cover the water bill though.
Yeah. On the other hand, you clean it regularly, right? Your leach field doesn't clog up and last longer, so it's pros and cons.
Any other questions, I guess?
So one thing, so going back to the start, the salary, which, that's just, got my issues with that. But I would like to see just presentation. If there's a one-time cost to oversee the building, if we could split that out so that that doesn't get lost. Because next year we should see that line, that part of the increase zeroed out. And when it comes next year and see a decrease of 5,000, they'll be like, well, why? So if it's separated as consultant, however you want to label it.
Well, just from an accounting perspective.
From an
take it out.
accounting perspective,
take it
we
out
can
of
break that
14.
out so that that doesn't get lost, that's what that $5,000 is for. Just for me personally, if I'm coming next year, I'll be like,
Yep.
or if we have a new board, to me, it's cleaner.
Mhm.
Good point.
Yeah, because
That's
it'll
a good point.
show as a $5,000 reduction.
Right, but it'll be,
Let's say 5,000 reduction next year.
yeah, but if it's currently $5,000, you zero it out for a one-time, it just, from a budgeting perspective, it's
For an
just
extra
cleaner.
line in there. I
Yeah,
think is what-
yeah, that's all I do too.
It's easier to understand and track.
Yeah, next year, then the increase, because there'll be an increase. So you'll be able to designate what is an actual increase versus
Right.
the,
Yeah.
subtracting out the one time.
Easy
It-
enough.
And then, is there currently a fee being charged to manage that job? Or is that $5,000 to cover the first 3 to 5 months of that project over there?
Do I have a clerk of the works?
No,
We don't have a clerk of the works, no, it's,
So that's kind of your job.
So is
we
the
have
five,
Ekman Construction is the general contractor.
so is the $5,000 for the project, or is there currently money being paid and the $5,000 is an additional fee? That's my question.
$5,000 is to the chief for the role he's playing, and the rest of it's in there.
Right, so it's for the entire, we're not paying half of it now and $5,000. The $5,000 is the entire cost.
so in the employment contract, it was upon acceptance of the building
Okay,
completion,
okay,
that's when the 5,000 will be
okay, so it is for the cost of the
Paid,
project,
yeah.
okay. So my question into the raise, I'm gonna hold on to that until we see a comparison of the contracts.
Sure.
Is that a
know-
done deal, the raise? Just the contracts are already signed and approved by the boards.
Yeah, you can, but we don't have to fund it.
No, that's true.
So. I would like-
I'll share with the board, we did a salary survey, because we were, also dealing with the, police chief and fire chief contracts at the same time. So we did a fairly comprehensive survey looking at, towns in southern New Hampshire, and then we were looking at towns comparable in size to, Litchfield. And then we did a table where we kind of mixed it all. So you'll see what the salaries are, for fire chiefs and police chiefs. So I'll share that with the board because I think that's important for people to understand.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, there's,
I appreciate the diligence you put into it. I just see that, and I threw a fit last year about any raise over 10%. I'm looking at 21 if I take out the $5,000 for that. So to me, that's huge. It's a hard thing to sell. It's a 21% increase. No offense, but that's a big number. So for me to understand it better in context of what's the total value of the package, because if we have a 21% increase here, but benefits went down through in other ways, and some, it's not truly a 21% cost of increase. So I'd like to be able to see exactly the entire cost of the package to know whether I should support or be really ticked off. I just don't know where I am on that.
no, you're right. I mean, I haven't looked at the contract in a while, but I do think there were some reductions in benefits as well.
Which might ease my ire over 21%. So that's why I just need to see how mad I am.
No, yeah, that's a good point. Well,
When that comparison that you're going to show, does that compare people that are 24 hours or are they 40 hours a week?
so in the survey, I believe, there's probably notes of what the current position is, whether it's a full-time chief or a part-time chief. But then in order to do the salary ranges, I would have to convert the data to full-time, 40-hour status.
I think it's important to note that your hourly wage is more representative of your skill and your professionalism, not the hours you actually work. So he's paid by the hour in most senses. He works 24, I think. 24 hours is what he's committed to this town, plus he does a lot more than that for the wage he collects on. So
And I get it. I'm not trying to argue with you. It seems a little excessive to me to go $15,000 for a 24-hour or someone who works 24 hours per week. I mean, I don't know anybody who gets that. I mean, that's just a huge raise to me for someone who's a part-timer.
Yeah, but
you pay
someone could argue that that the position, the rate of pay for that position was grossly underpaid.
But for Litchfield, though, I mean, versus how many
Well,
calls
let me share the survey with you and then
That's right. So let's
and then we'll have
the data
that, we'll have
before
that discussion. But
we figure out how many.
that's
I'd love
what
to
I'm
see
saying.
it.
I mean, it's easy to sit there and say nobody gets a $15,000 pay increase. And I don't think we got a 15,000 here. I think it's more around just under 10.
If you take
Remember,
out
the
the
5,000's embedded in there.
It's 98.50.
So if the position itself is not being paid the current market rate and you're making a correction, I can see a double-digit percentage increase. And it's happened in this town on library employees and non-union employees, and I don't know at the school level, but it happens.
But usually we do that when we have a hard time filling the position. I don't know if we had anybody who was necessarily walking off the job if we didn't give 21. So, but ultimately though, I'm reserving my opinion
right.
until I see the total package, which is, I'm trying to be keep my mind open. So I think we should move past before I get really ticked off.
All right, so I think we are, or at least I'm looking like fire department equipment, repair and maintenance. Looks like it's pretty on track with last year, except.
So if you're looking at current, I mean, the budget report that came out today or even last Friday, is that what?
Yeah,
So I'll throw the general out there. We have several significant sized POs currently out for equipment that do not get reflected in the fact that it's expended, but it's
Okay.
committed.
all right,
I.e., we have the $40,000 in communications upgrades. It still shows as being unpaid, but that order is placed, that purchase order, that those funds are committed. So it's a little deceiving when you're looking at the budget report because it shows, we're 80% remaining, reality being we're probably 25% remaining. Same with protective clothing. And then on the maintenance, apparatus maintenance, we do have I wouldn't say a major, but a moderate repair to one of the trucks scheduled that's going to take a good chunk of what's left there. And I've been kind of putting it off till the end of the year to make sure that.
Well, one of my questions is about the trucks percent. Like, what is the life expectancy? Well, when are we going to be serious about taking a look at starting to plan for a replacement?
That's a very good question.
I think the funny
Because we just see this big building. I'd hate to, and then we're going to have to get hit with a a fire truck bill at some point in the near future. Can we
next
start
year.
talking about it?
You'll be having that discussion next year at this time.
You're
So-
gonna have to, because we've already put together the plan. We know these trucks are aging out. The question is, when can we actually start implementing the replacement? We thought the station's more important at this point. We need
Right.
a building, because we can't fit new trucks in the old station.
But depending on where the budget is it worth considering starting to see if people would be willing to put money into a fund this year to start cutting off for next year? It's going to be what, half 300 to 500,000, $750,000 for one truck.
Yeah, I think it's a lease purchase,
Okay.
financing over 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
It has to be. It's the only way we can probably afford it.
But I just want to and going forward, once it's all said and done, like if we know we're going to be in this situation, start a fund that has, the thing is 20 years old. You put 1/20th of the cost away every year and then you pay cash and get a better deal. Like plan ahead.
Much better.
Like we know the age of how these are. Like
Your fire engines are how
it
much?
drives me nuts if we wait till the last
So,
minute.
so I think for the board's benefit, the average life expectancy industry standard of fire trucks 20 years. Obviously, depending upon how well it's taken care of, how often it runs, that's a number on a wall. From an insurance services standpoint, that's the number they use. So we get full credit up to 20 years for the truck. After that, it's considered by insurance standards a reserve truck. Doesn't mean it can't be used, but it's considered. So we lose a couple of points in the matrix. So our two oldest trucks are 25 and 28 years old. So to Troy's point, we started this conversation 3 years ago when Frank was on the board.
Yep.
And I, in good conscience, can't recommend buying a fire truck that has to be custom made to fit in a station that we were knowingly trying to fix. And the problem is trucks are going up because
Which is totally
when you bring
fascinating to
them
me.
down, they go out. So right now we've got not enough space between them to go out. So it means, so we have done everything we can to prolong the longevity of what we have. In couple of things, it's a year to get it from the time we place the order. It's on average 9 months. And then you factor in the order, the bidding, you're a year out from when you truly commit to buying a fire truck. We're looking at about $500,000 to $600,000 for one truck. Given where we're at with the new facility, the impacts, and all the work involved with that within the fire department, to try and do it to come in this year, I think was going to be putting too much on the table in all different perspectives. But next year, it's my intention to come forward with, like we did the station, a truck that fits our needs, a price, and get it approved. And it would most likely be a lease
So
purchase.
I want to be. This is how I would like to see you approach it. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you how I would do your lease purchase, and then for 5 years, whatever, and then start sucking the money away. 5% a year for 20 years and collecting interest on it instead of paying interest on it is the smarter move. So let's please, for once in this town, look forward.
Yeah, is it possible to look at a warrant article that has the revolving fund and then use end of year unexpended fund balance to fund it if possible?
Currently, right now, you'll see pretty much every year on the warrant, you'll see, anywhere from 3 to 4 warrant articles that take care of certain capital needs or create expendable trust funds, replenish funds, capital reserve funds, using the unassigned fund balance. So we do that right now. That's our current practice. Towns can, there's a lot of different tools that you can use to finance large projects. And I think the least you see for items that are $100,000 or more, you typically see towns using the lease purchasing. The beauty of it is you're not taking tax money, put it in the bank, taxing people for that, and for something that you plan to buy 20 years from now. So I got to send you a tax bill
Compound interest.
for But you have other capital needs. We're sitting here, we're focused on fire, but you have other capital
Yeah.
needs throughout the town. So you're
There's a
trying
lot.
this balancing act. And as the one way that you fit in large purchases, like a brand new fire engine, is you lease purchase it over a period of
Right,
5 to 7 years. When that lease purchase is up,
Mhm.
I can guarantee you it's time to replace another fire engine.
Mhm.
And now you just backfill that lease purchase, that payment that's in your budget, that's $87,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
stays in the budget and goes towards the next purchase. So
Such a dumb way of doing it.
it's the same thing as putting $87,000 away. So
Yeah,
it
but
would,
you
it would take me 5 years to put money in the bank to buy the engine that we need today.
No, I get that,
So
but
here-
long term.
But then at the same time though, you're asking residents to put money into a fund for 10 years and then they
You're still
get
gonna
up
have to
and
pay it
move.
eventually.
That's exactly what I was
Oh.
gonna say. You need to tax the
But what
people
about-
who benefit from it. So if you're for 10 years taxing people who live here today, by the time you go to buy the vehicle, they no longer live here, and a new set of people who haven't funded the vehicle now have the benefit of it. So for a municipality, it makes sense to tax the people who benefit from it, not the future people who are going to benefit.
See,
from it.
I'm going to disagree entirely with that because I'm for fiscal responsibility. And if I'm going to spend $87,000 to get $83,000 worth of benefit, that's stupid. So so if I'm going to cost me $87,000, but I can put $80,000 away now, I've just saved $7,000. It's just, to me, I would rather see interest working for us instead of against us, because who only knows what interest rates are going to be like? And then they're creeping up. It's just, to me,
They're gonna go.
I'm not a fan of borrowing. I'm just not. I'm philosophically opposed to it when I can have it work for me instead of against me.
Well, if you want to pay ahead, and we'll all take.
Yeah, that's a
Can
great
I
idea.
pay my taxes at the current rate for the next 5 years? Because I'll take that bargain.
No, we're not looking at a bargain here.
It's not easy. It's just like, I wish that I could buy, when I have to replace my vehicle at home, I wish I could buy it in cash. I can't. I have to finance it.
I know, I wish I
I
could
just
do
can't.
that.
I can't afford it because I have all these other needs that are going on, and I have to pick and choose what things I pay for cash and what things I have to finance. It's no different running, a town government.
Well, I mean, part of the
You're
problem is
always balancing
we have to play
everything.
catch up. If we had thought about it 25 years ago, we could pay cash, pay less because it'd be paying cash, and we would have had interest on your $500,000.
But what kind of uproar would that cause? You get these residents that are putting money into this fund for 10 years. They get up and move.
People
you know,
pay
this is
for
not.
school
It's not a.
systems.
It's not a. It's not a. It's not a cooperative. You know, if you want to run the town like a cooperative, everybody buys in for $20,000. There you go. But you
But
don't
by
run the
that
town
by
like a
that logic,
cooperative.
then I should only pay for the schools for the 12 years I use them.
Well,
So I mean, so there's, it
that's-
goes both ways.
That's actually part of the philosophy of having a 15 or a 20-year bond. Is if you spread it out, then the people who are the life expectancy of that object, then the people who benefit from it for that life expectancy are actually paying for it, not people who never see it or.
What if we have
deliver
whole
anymore.
people turn over and decide, you know what? I didn't want a kindergarten, but everybody else voted for it. I didn't get a say in it. Why should I pay for it? It goes both ways. There are always going to be decisions made by somebody else that affect you. So yeah, it's just from a fiscal point of view, it's wrong to pay interest if we don't have to. The part of the problem is we're already behind the 8 ball. You know, we're already behind.
We're
If we had
behind.
planned ahead, we could have been.
So
we could have paid.
so just to talk about the plan ahead part, the board put together
Mm-hmm.
this whole CIP or this capital plan. We identified all of our assets in our life cycles. When you look at it as a whole, you go, oh crap,
No.
we're already way far behind. We had to prioritize, and the fire station was our top priority for
Mm-hmm.
this year, and it's going to continue to be a focus for a little while longer. So I think we're doing it, but we just don't have the ability to tax without hurting people
Mm-hmm.
at the rate that we need to do to recover for 20 years of just not thinking about that part of it.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
it's a
we'll get
different
there.
philosophy. There's no right or wrong. It's
No.
preference. So
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going on, but I agree with you. I was raised, cash
Cash
is
king.
the best way to purchase anything
Mhm.
if you can afford it.
Well, and that's
We're looking at trying to keep tax rates as stable as possible,
Yeah.
meaning multiple demands. That usually means that we're doing cash purchases and we're using unassigned fund balances and we're borrowing money or doing lease purchases.
But to answer your original question, I will be coming forward for a fire truck next year.
You know it's coming.
Look forward to that.
So don't look shocked next year.
No, I've been expecting it. Then one of the other
But
questions.
if you want to vote to put it in this year, I'm not going to.
Well, apparently I'd lose, so it doesn't matter. One of Cindy's questions was about the in-mask or the cameras, and the answer is goal is to have as many as possible. Well, how many is as many as possible?
Well, right now we have 6, so they're
Okay.
assigned to each of the
Mhm.
2 primary trucks out and the officers, because they're the ones that would be using them. We have, I think it was 4 this year. We cut, some was cut. They're going through some I don't want to say upgrades, but modifications. So we're waiting to purchase this year's. It's one of those things as technology changes, that tool is phenomenal in having visibility within a building. So if every firefighter had that capability, that'd be awesome. And I think pricing is going to come down a little bit too. That's why I'm kind of holding off.
So how many more do we need to get to what your goal is?
Yeah, I think we have 40 masks. Is that what I remember?
Well, yeah, because there's masks, everybody's issued a mask.
Mhm.
And then there's one spare mask per truck. So it's right around 40, 37 or 8, I think it is.
But we're not realistically going to have 37 people arrive.
No, but we're gonna at least get
All right, so what's a
Core.
reasonable number to have on?
20.
And so we will be halfway there once you get the ones you just talked about, or?
Yes.
So in the budget are 6 more, you say?
So I believe it's 8.
Or
It was 80 a year.
you 2 handheld and 6 in mask. So we currently have how many in mask? You said 6 or 4?
6.
And then you go 2 more.
No, we have 6.
Mhm.
I put in for 8 for this year. We cut it in half. So
All right,
it's
so
4 that have yet to be purchased because I'm waiting for the upgrade or whatever they call it.
So those would be bought this
revision.
year.
Yes.
And then you'd put 6, and then 6 are in for the next year's budget. So it brings you 16.
And it was intended to be a multi-year program.
No, I understand that. I think
I think
40 is, that's great, but not realistic. So what is a reasonable number we could come to?
it's great, but it's a maintenance thing too. So
So, all right. I just curious as to how far, I agree it was a multi-year. I'm just trying to figure out where in that multi-year step we are.
So one other thing you kind of just made me think of it, Kerry, is within the equipment line, last year we had 30,000 to replace the rescue tools. I backed 20 of that out this year, kept 10 in to replace the airbags, which is another rescue item that's way beyond its life expectancy. So there was a reduction there because that was a one-time purchase, but like many things need to be replaced. There is still 10 in, 10 in there to replace the rescue airbags.
So we're hopefully with the 6 in this, there is going to be 16. So we're still shy of the 20.
Cameras, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jumping back to the just
I threw a wild card at you, so.
Yep.
But I didn't want to
Yeah.
not mention that too, and it just kind of came in.
Yeah.
All right. So then the following year we should see 4 and we should be,
Pretty good.
all right. Question about the pre-employment physical line. It says 5 at 7,800, but the amount is 4,000. So could you clarify what part of that is? It's under 355.
I think that just a decimal point or an extra 0, 780.
Oh, so they cost 780 a piece. So 5 times 780 would be,
No, that's actually, I'm not sure where that number is.
that's
What number is
3,900,
It's,
which is around.
yeah, I'm not sure how that get into that.
I think we called this out when we did the review with the board.
Oh, it's 780, yeah, not 7,800.
Well, 780 times 5 is not.
3,900, so there's an extra 100 there.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 800. I think it's supposed to be $800 per year.
Oh, so the 7 shouldn't be there?
I think the 7's the mistake.
Oh, it's the 7 that's
Yeah,
the wrong
It's
number.
$800,
Oh,
$800 per.
Okay.
I thought we corrected it when we reviewed it in the board. This is,
Okay.
Well, that makes more sense.
391.
Yep.
391.
the pre-employment, it should be just 800.
Well, there goes a $100 cut.
I'm guessing it was probably 780 and it went to 800.
It's $800.
$800.
It's $800.
5 times 800.
Yeah.
Why did we increase the
Wording
number of
says
hours for the
$7,800.
repair?
Change, just fix that.
Because the trucks are 25 plus years older. And I think it's really key to, so the individual that does our repairs is a firefighter as well. So most of the time that he's actually doing repairs, he's covering a shift. So he's covering for one of the full timers who's either on vacation or right now one of them's out on medical leave. So he's actually filling the shift and we're getting the maintenance done without. But he also comes in, we just went through inspections. He comes in before every truck goes and makes sure that that truck is ready to pass. So we're not paying wherever we send it $90 an hour to change a light bulb. We have an account at the auto parts store. He goes and gets what he needs. He changes it and we save significant amount of money. He generally takes care of most of the general maintenance and so forth.
So it's more reflective of the amount of time he's actually currently spending.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's like I said, as things age,
Right.
we're spending more time trying to keep them going.
Apparently, you guys get another couple years out of one of them, right?
We just had one die at Nightmare the other day. Friday afternoon at
Don't say die.
3:30.
Don't say die.
No, it died. It needed, the alternator had gone. So we were able to get it started and get it back. And he replaced the alternator in house as opposed to having it towed and having it done,
And then wait for it.
and have it out of service. In that case, would have been over a weekend, So.
All right. I think that's the worst of my
I have a question.
questions. I'm sure I'll come up with more.
Question on 810 mileage and tolls. So for 2017, we spent 0. 2016, we spent 0. It looks as though it's just a placeholder for when the department vehicle is not available. So how reasonable is 350 for tolls if we never spend it?
We've used it a few times if it's something that we can't fit in a if before we had bought the new forestry, we didn't have a utility. We took the old forestry and if we had to take a ladder there, somebody take it in their pickup for repair, take it in their pickup as opposed to sending a truck. I think we've used a little bit of that, or maybe a good charge to the wrong line. We had some firefighters go to the National Fire Academy. They hit some tolls along the way. It's kind of like our postage. We don't do a whole lot of postage, but if we have to ship a part back, it can cost us $70 because of the weight of most things. So it's really just there if we have, have an issue that comes up or so.
Okay.
Or if we don't have a vehicle for somebody to go to classes, then they get mileage. In state, we don't pay tolls, but out of state we do. So.
Good to know. Anybody else have any questions? Maybe actually, I thought you were going to say something earlier, and I think we cut you off.
Oh, no, I was looking at the one thing, but there was a note about the cost to change the address. I guess that led
Yeah,
to
obviously we've
extra
got letterhead and
letterhead
cards
and
all
everything
that
like
stuff
that.
we're going to need to change. So.
That was a jump. Oh, and then I was just curious how the fuel costs decrease. We talk so much about fuel costs increasing.
The diesel or?
Yeah.
The price per gallon, I guess.
No, because they didn't change the price of gallon. Let's see, fire.
$635.
2,500 gallons. Well, you know, I guess you've added 500 gallons.
But it went down. I think that's what your comment
Yeah,
is.
I'm just curious how it went down, how we would revise the fuel cost down.
Again, if you look at the spreadsheet, we're taking a look at actuals, because in this case, I'm looking at the gallons actually used, and then comparing it to the run rate. So for this year, I'm projecting 2,500 gallons.
Okay.
And the price, we're still holding at the same price for diesel at $2.75 a gallon. That's been a pretty good price for the last couple of years. The only one we've had to make an adjustment to is our regular fuel.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Chief.
What are we doing next? No, it's not that easy.
Ambulance or fire
Do I
hydrants?
do ambulance or ambulance fire or
Um, Well, we can go ambulance or how's it on the agenda?
ambulance is closer. Let's just
Are
do
you
ambulance first.
Okay.
But one's forward and one's backward. They're right there.
Yeah. then you get-
That's true. Well, yeah, I was very close. So we got to go backwards and go forward.
I guess so.
So ambulance 4215, if you don't mind.
All right, so for the ambulance, there's two lines. The first one is the contract that we have for the services provided by the town of Hudson. And we're projecting no change this year. It's been held flat for at least the last 2 years. So this is not a firm price, it's an estimate. There's in the contract, there's a formula that's used, and it's all based on the operating budget of the Hudson ambulance services, and then based on the usage from Litchfield and Hudson residents. So, but the 57.5 should be a good number for 2019. No change there. The third quarter bill I've not received yet. That usually gives me a good indication, because they're on a different fiscal year. The town of Hudson operates July 1st fiscal year. So I don't know how much they've changed their budget. Usually that third quarter bill will give me an indication of what the future cost might be. And then, of course, we have Spooky World that happens. We don't pick up that activity until the fourth quarter billing. So ambulance bad debt, we have an expendable trust fund that we maintain for all of the, because I know some of you are new, we have a contract with Hudson that provides the ambulance service. And then what they do is they have a third-party contracted collection agency called Comstar.
So they work for Hudson.
They work for the town of Hudson.
Yep.
And
They do their billing.
they do the billing. So when Hudson comes, provides the service for ambulance, Comstar will send a bill to the patient that was transported from Litchfield or Hudson.
Right.
So in our case, to the patient that was transported from Litchfield. They will collect that money. If they receive it, the town of Hudson receives that income. If the patient that was transported does not pay the bill, maybe they don't have insurance, maybe we can't find the individual, and for whatever reason, they're unable to collect it, we are responsible for paying the town of Hudson for those services. And that's what's charged against this line, the bad debt.
So
Yeah.
I thought we got that all squared away last year. So I'm kind of curious about
What's that?
I thought a lot of this came to a head last year with all the back stuff.
So we had another glitch, but this time it was a software glitch. Comstar was billing out to the patients that were transported from Litchfield, and those bills were going out to the patients and the insurance companies. But what was not being pushed out was the unpaid bills to the town of Hudson.
Okay,
And Hudson would get those bills, turn around and send them to us.
right.
So we went a year without really any activity from the town of Hudson. So last year, when we were reviewing the budget, we reduced the contribution to the bad debt account from 10,000 to 5 because we're seeing
Right.
reduced activity.
Yep.
And we thought the reduced activity was a result of all this back billing that they hit us with the prior year, right?
Mhm.
So unfortunately, this year, we know right now that we're going to have about $25,000 of bills that we're going to be paying this month of bad debt. And that's going to bring this fund balance down to, say, about $6,800.
How much of that is Hudson? How much? So Comstar is Hudson's contractor. We don't have a contract with them. We don't have a contract with Comstar.
Right.
Their guy. Their guy screwed up.
Mhm.
What responsibility is Hudson taking in this situation? Because now you're so far out, it's going to be hard to chase these guys down. So they kind of messed us up.
Well, I think Comstar was hunting them down. They just didn't notify. Hudson.
Comstar was
That's-
doing,
We don't have a contract with Comstar, so they're not going to notify us. So this is Hudson's vendor, Hudson's problem. Why are they
So-
sharing in the cost of it at all? Because they've made it to a point, they sent the bill so late that you're going to have a hard time tracking these guys down. They put us over a barrel because we're in a position where we can't get to some of these guys because the bills are so late. That's their vendor, their issue. Are they sharing any of the costs associated with fixing this
no,
problem?
they're not going to share that cost. These are Litchfield. These are bills that Litchfield's required to pay. Some of these bills, just because they're 3 years old, you have to understand in the ambulance world and the medical world, bills can go back and forth from insurance companies to billing agents. They can take a year
No, I understand
to
that.
even get resolved before it even gets to the town of Hudson.
So have we considered trying to enter into our own contract with Comstar so that they bill us in tandem so we're aware of these?
We've had that discussion, and
Because to me, there should
we
be
don't
some.
have an ambulance service, so they
We're not the provider of
Not
the
the provider.
service.
So the next time you negotiate a contract, I would try to negotiate in some terms to state, you don't get me your bill within 24 months, not my problem. It's your billing agency.
the town of Hudson's not going to take on that kind of financial liability.
And we
They
can't
don't-
afford another ambulance service.
They're just not going to. If I was a counselor for the town of Hudson, I would not agree to pay for Litchfield's unpaid ambulance bills.
No, and I understand that
It's not
if they
going to.
got the bill to us in a timely manner, and that's where they're falling
not
down.
going- I know, but they're not going to do it.
So just in terms of the practical dollars here, it looks as though when we paid this week's bill of 24,000 plus, we still have another 20,000 that we owe. How are we gonna pay?
No. So
Because it says, including this week's payment, $44,561 is waiting to be paid.
yeah. So
So that
we-
sounds like there's a $20,000 deficit.
No, based on the numbers that I went through with Karen, once we pay that $24,000 bill and we transfer the money that was raised last year to the expendable trust fund,
Mhm.
we should have about $6,800 remaining in the fund.
Well,
Now, we have some bad debt that maybe you're seeing that needs
So
to
I'm-
be written off.
so then the next one, I asked how many uncollected bills are currently waiting to be paid, including this week's payment, which I assume is the 24,000, 44,561, and then there's a period. So I assume that's the outstanding debt. So of the 44,000, 24 is being paid. That sounds to me like 20 is outstanding still, and that the $6,000 balance isn't going to be enough to cover that.
So you got two different things going on.
Okay.
You have as we work with our auditors, and we used to always leave the uncollected debt on our books. Their position is that if the debt is 3 years old, that the Board of Selectmen write it off. So it's just a vote and it's written off, it's off our books. That money is still actively being pursued by we have a collection agency.
Mhm.
They still actively try to collect that money. So they're constantly trying to hunt down that money. But I can tell you, we probably get 3 to 8% return. When it gets to the point where you're writing it off,
So I'm assuming most of the people aren't in town then because you would do liens.
they had no insurance. You can't find them. They, when they
I
were
don't-
transported, they may have moved.
I think you can't lien their property because of medical. I don't think we.
So
can.
what we do is with the collection agency, they will put on the credit report, they'll put a blemish or whatever on it, the credit
is
report. So
gone
if they're
for
going to
5
try
years.
one day, if it comes up that they're trying to get a loan for a house or something like that, then to get that removed, that outstanding bill does have to be paid.
Don't they just wait it out? I thought after 5 years, people start rebuilding their credit. It's just,
I don't know. We
it just
put
seems
it
like
on
there
the
needs to
credit.
be
All
more
I understand is we put it on the
teeth,
credit
and
report.
talk about, people having to pay things that aren't theirs. That's really sucks.
So
If
after,
you were running your own
Just
ambulance
you know,
service, you'd be dealing with the same thing. So you'd be, you'd be,
But I'd
I
have
don't know,
to
it costs
bill.
about
like
a
a year
million,
ahead
a
of
million
time.
something to run your own ambulance service,
more than that.
probably more. And then you would offset that with your service call revenues. And out of those service calls, there's going to be a percentage of those that are never going to be paid.
Do we at least have an indication on like a monthly basis as to how many calls? Like, is there a way we can track it to say, hey, we're missing 5 bills from 10 months ago? We at least have it on our radar. Because if they all of a sudden ambush you, 15
Well-
months later, and like, what the heck? I had no idea.
So we had a
Simple
meeting.
answer is no.
We had a meeting about a month ago, and Comstar in the town of Hudson is going to try to,
They said
to the
that
best of their ability, generate some type of monthly report. But we are, because it's they're providing the service, we're getting into HIPAA protected
right. and
information, and
realistically, that means nothing, right? Because they said that last year, and you have people already attending their meetings because of a similar situation. So nothing's really been resolved. I promise I'll do better.
all right, but in terms of the current budget, I want to understand so the 24,000 is being paid invoices this week. That leaves us a balance. How does that translate into why we're going to budget 10,000 for next year?
well, because you're only going to have in the fund balance, you're going to have, according to my notes here, you're going to have about $6,800 remaining in the fund balance.
And we like to keep,
And I like to keep 15, 20, 25,000. So
is
that's
10
why,
That's the question is 10 enough?
Huh?
I guess the question is.
well, it's unfortunate that it was reduced last year.
yeah.
And
Well, based
That's
on the
why,
data
I
we had
really-
last year, it made sense.
it did, and part of this, is I frustrated that I didn't pick up the phone and say, I just want to double check. Haven't really received any bills for the last year, but sometimes you're like, well,
Well,
the whole issue was resolved.
they
and-
promised you they'd do better.
Yeah.
So,
But anyhow, I think that this line item is probably needs, is $10,000 a year, is what should be expected.
Okay.
Unless we get the fund balance to 25,000,
because
20 to 25, we don't need to put money in it.
so is the 2017 expense then reflects items probably incurred in like 2015? So like,
Yeah, so it'll be 15, 16, and 17
so
service bills.
all right. So and then the year to date it currently is for the past 3 years. Is what
Yeah.
they're saying. So it's about $8,000 a year.
Yeah.
But maybe not. It could be. Oh, look.
So if you look back at 2013, it was 7,800. 2014 was 9,500. Then we had a down year. Then we made up for 21, and then last year was another low year. So yeah, it looks as though 8 or 9 is probably the right. If they are keeping up with things.
Yeah, but
that's
now I
the
don't
right-
trust them because they promised once.
Well, that's what I mean.
Only once.
If they're keeping up with it, that
If
should
they
be the
keep
right
up with
number.
it, we should be always seeing about $10,000 paid out a year for bad debt. That's my guess.
All right. And looking at the time.
All right, keep going. We can always discuss it later.
Yep. What else would fall under? Actually, emergency management, I believe, right? Falls under the chief. All right. So 4,290. Any,
The only change there was the portable generator at the high school that is actually an emergency management asset. It was required on a grant a number of years ago. It has been maintained, but it's just been billed on the along with the fire department generator service. So it's really more to reflect the cost to emergency management. It's never actually been in the fire department budget. We've just kind of eaten it each year. And again, in planning ahead for the new station and the generator, it actually kind of made me realize that it was never actually in the emergency management budget where it should be.
it
So
was in
it
the-
wasn't an item in the fire department budget. It was just being paid out of it anyway.
So where was it coming from?
The fire department, but it was
Well,
an
I'm just saying, if it's
unbudgeted
maintenance
expense.
of 750, then I should see a reduction.
But it was an unbudgeted expense.
But you're going to be taking on the annual maintenance of a new generator
Of a new generator.
at the new
Correct.
station.
Correct.
So it really is, it's a wash. It's
Yeah,
an
it's a lot.
increase is what it
It's
is.
a lot bigger generator, so it's going to be more annually to maintain.
so it was absorbed.
And we actually, we've saved a little bit because we've lumped all the town's generators under the same contract now. This one used to be done by one company. Another company did the fire and emergency management one.
Yeah, because now you have one person to call as opposed to which generator, which
And the
person.
new one will be again maintained by the same company, so they'll have all of them.
So there's one here at the town hall, there's one at Campbell, and there'll be one at the fire station.
There's one at the current fire station, which right now may stay, may
Okay.
go somewhere else to be
Cold
used.
storage.
And then the new one at the fire station.
Get
we'll
rid
have
of it.
actually
Move
four.
it somewhere else.
But we now have them all under one contract so that they're all, same day they come, they service them twice a year. They all get serviced and it's not, all right, which one's ready to be done and so forth. And the town hall one is under general government buildings. So it was really more putting it where it really should be as opposed to carrying it where it's never been.
Okay. I think that's all of them for the fire chief.
I wish. We've got code, we've got a health.
Oh. So let's go. Yeah, so what else then is the fire chief gonna need to weigh in
You
on?
want to talk just code enforcement and then,
I don't have the list in for the agenda, so I'm not.
yeah, there's,
You
so
tell me
anything
what you
left
wanna
is
talk
code, what you'd want to stick around for is code enforcement, hydrants, and we have, health?
It doesn't stick around for hydrants.
No,
It's our
Oh,
bill. It's our bill. You have nothing to do with it.
All right, so
So
code
code 42.
enforcement, hydrants and health, is that what you said?
so you want to go to
Health
code
and
and
code. We'll
Health
do
and
code first.
All right, so let's do code enforcement 4241.2.
We're keeping the position as it is, as you may be aware, maybe not. We're currently doing a review of code enforcement, zoning and planning services. We expect to have that by the end of the year.
by the end of the year.
Recommendations, keep it full-time, part-time, so forth. So we're holding that status quo. We did, I did put a line in for uniforms because that was something that was changed and the code officer inspector was and will continue to be identifiable as a town employee. And then and it's an increase in training because we've added 2 deputy health officers. I'm sorry, no, that's in the health budget.
So what would
that's it.
constitute a uniform? A
It
polo
was
shirt with a,
a collared shirt, polo in the summer, button down, and a pair of regular khaki type work
so we
pants.
provide the khakis also?
Yes.
I'm just thinking I can get a lot of polo shirts for $500, so, okay.
No, it's pants and a shirt.
Pants
I
and
can
shirt,
do a lot of pants and
That's
shirts for,
emblem and
embroidered, yeah.
name. So, year to date, we've spent quite a bit in training. My notes say that we've spent about $3,000 in training this year on code enforcement already. That was just curious because I like to look
Yeah.
at year to date, and that sort of stuck out as unusual.
The seminars and conventions. only.
Yeah. Any idea why?
Be interesting to know when those expenses were incurred too. Since we don't currently have a code enforcement agent.
I don't know, we can pull that expense line, take a look at it. We may have charged something. Didn't have a
Study.
line. Yeah, I was wondering if I had to
Study.
put a deposit on the study and I hit that line. But
Yeah, because
That's what I'm
it's current year expenditures $3,000.
I think to do the MRI study, we had to do a
Yeah.
deposit, and it's possible we charged that line because there was no.
Okay. That just stuck out as sort of unusual.
But I'll double check that and confirm.
All right, any other questions on code enforcement?
So this one could change a bit once you decide what you're gonna do. Is that what we're hearing?
Potentially.
Yeah, it's hard to know, especially like, or with the health insurance, if it's going to be a family or not.
So
Yeah,
actually,
so-
that's a good point, because when you did that, you actually put it, the
Family, right.
previous was a buyout, and we
Right. So we're just got a placeholder there, family plan and family
So that
plan
was
for
a
dental.
change. Yes, thank
It
you.
could end up being a buyout. It could end up being a two-person single.
The printing costs, are we anticipating?
Same, change it over, because that position will be within the new, that office will be within the new fire station.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right,
Health Department,
sure.
241110.
And the only change there is a little bit of added training for health officer and deputy health officers. It's a $80 increase. As well as the Health Officer Association dues, which gets them reduced rates on the training. So we were one, we're now three.
Who covers this now?
Who covers?
Like, so we have training for two positions. There's one stipend. I'm assuming that there's time hit elsewhere in the budget.
No, there's no change in. It was
So
an
this-
ancillary duty for the building inspector. It's now an ancillary duty for the deputy fire chief.
Okay. So, yeah, okay,
And we
so-
now have two deputy health officers.
But they don't receive a stipend for
Right.
deputies. So we have a health officer who still receives the stipend of $1,500.
So it'll be part of their normal work week.
Where? So we have two deputy fire chiefs who covered this position.
No, the deputy fire chief is the town's health officer.
So he
So,
also gets the stipend then?
as did the building inspector.
I'm just trying to figure out who's getting the stipend. That's all. I'm assuming that there's a full-time position somewhere. I'm just trying to figure out in my mind.
Yeah, so
who's
the
that
bill-
attached to that?
So formerly in 2017, 2018, the building inspector received a $1,500
Right.
stipend because he was appointed as health officer as well.
Okay.
The selectman could appoint any
Right.
citizen as a health officer.
Oh, okay.
So now the deputy fire chief has been appointed as the health officer. He
Okay.
continues to receive the $1,500 stipend.
Okay.
At one time, one of the school nurses was the health
No, that's
officer.
fine. We're talking about
No,
two
I know.
people going to training. I'm trying to figure out who those two people are.
Well,
Like
so
I-
and that's what we're trying to get to. So we did not have a deputy health officer. So
Okay.
if for whatever reason the health officer was not available, nobody could step in and fill that role, be it sickness, vacation, whatever. We have two deputy health officers. One of them is the fire inspector, who's currently trained as a health officer in his full-time position in another community. So that was a natural. The other is the full-time firefighter paramedic, and that the primary reason for that is health covers a wide range of things, not just food safety and so forth. It covers pandemic planning and outbreaks and so forth. And a lot of other communities have someone from their medical or EMS side
Mhm.
involved with health, and that was the decision to
Okay.
do that. So there's $35, $70 more a year to enroll, get them both membership in the National Health Officers Association, as well as to attend some of their trainings. So, and the membership gives them a discounted rate on the trading, so it's a trade-off.
Okay.
Any other questions? So then the last thing then would be fire hydrants. My only question is, how often are we billed for them?
Question is, can we have Manchester
Hydrants?
buy us out?
Yeah,
I build on a quarterly basis.
on a quarterly basis. Okay, so we haven't been billed for the third quarter yet.
No.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so you'll see there's an increase of $34,000. And there's an attachment here. I reach out to Pennachuck now and have them actually do their calculation of what the cost will be. So that they've said that they're not going to be charging us for any additional hydrants in 2019. Any new ones that are installed here at the fire station or related to the water line extension that's going on in Hillcrest and parts of the 3A will be picked up in 2020.
Okay.
So the increase is a direct cost associated with their increase in their rates.
Have they ever explained to us why it costs more than three times as much for them to maintain a hydrant as it does Manchester? And can we encourage Manchester to buy us out of that?
Encourage them all you want.
Because it costs $1,938 for a year for a Pennachuck for one hydrant. It costs Manchester $640. There
I believe the
is
response that you would receive from Pennachuck is that Pennachuck is a regulated utility.
not Manchester.
They're regulated utility. And so they have to, everything they do is regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. And their rates are set. And so it's not just their, there's 7 or 8 communities that are part of the Pennachuck division that's Litchfield. They're all rated the same. City of Manchester, they run their own water department. So their rates are different because they're a city. They're not running a utility. They don't have shareholders. They're not,
Well,
the big difference is probably one is, I don't want to call them for profit, and one is a
I'm looking
entity,
at
but that's
$1,200 a pop. It might be worth considering. What would it cost us to buy out our own system? I mean, because over $1,200 a hydrant a year times 240 hydrants is a lot of extra money we're spending. That's ridiculous.
You're suggesting we buy the system out?
I don't care. I was looking at $1,200.
You do realize we sold the system to them, right?
Don't even get me started on
At least
that
the
decision.
source of the water
Yeah.
went to them.
Don't even get me started
Yeah,
on that.
that's a
bad
whole
decision.
different story. So, all right. Any other questions on fire hydrants? That's pretty cut and dried.
No, it just
There's
to
nothing
me
you can
wrap my
do about
mind around the fact it costs that much
But
more.
you also need to remember that this change in how this was billed to the community was done by vote of the voters, right? So this was an unexpected. I think the consequences were unexpected. It used to be a $25 surcharge on everybody's bill that used the water, and now it's.
Yeah, but now it covers more of the community. It's more logical now than it was when it was voted.
Oh, I agree.
But even still, it's 3 times as much.
We're not going to change it tonight. So,
When
I
they
would
go
just
for when they
explore
go for an
further
increase,
options.
go,
Probably not
when,
tomorrow night either.
probably not smart
when they
either.
go for an
Don't
increase,
plan
go to the PUC and.
No, the PUC thought
All right,
19%
we
increase
got
is reasonable.
10 minutes to finish up. Not that I want to rush anybody, but you got 10 minutes.
We're
So,
actually going to
thank
stop
you.
at 9.
No. Go quickly.
We're going to go quickly.
Okay.
But it's easy. Street lighting's easy.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Let's then go in order. So let's go back to Board of Selectmen.
All right. It's a good one.
Okay, so the changes here are directly related to wage increase, town administrator. Selectmen expenses, $300.
So, oh, that was last year's, never mind.
400. The health insurance is the 10%. Down at the bottom, training has increased from $500 to $1,500. Part of the agreement that I made with the Board of Selectmen was that I'd be able to enroll in the state of New Hampshire certified public management program. It's a course, it's a program that's spread over 2 to 3 years. So the first level is supervisor certification, and then the next level is public manager. The registration fee for that is $1,350. And then, that's the only training line we have for from myself, the selectmen, the budget committee. I think, Nicole, when you went to the training, we charged that line, and a couple other committee board members. We just hit that line.
Yep.
Makes sense.
All right, any questions? Town meeting, we did that, right?
Yep.
So accounting,
Oh, accounting, right, we have not done accounting.
4150.10. For those following at home.
Yep.
Okay, so same thing, the wage increases. We did have, in this budget, you have to understand, is the first year that we have the new bookkeeper. It's not a new position, just a change in staff, and change in wage and change in health insurance, stuff like that. So, but this represents our finance manager, our bookkeeper, payroll clerk, and then the office manager, which, handles for the highway department, is an assistant for me, does assessing work, does general welfare take-ins, and then just general receptionist for the town hall.
So in terms of the stipend for the treasurer and deputy treasurer, it doesn't look like the last couple of years we've paid the deputy treasurer. Do we have one?
Yeah,
Didn't we?
They
just switched, and I thought.
they just switched, and they should have been paid.
So
I know they've been paid, or they would be knocking on my door.
2016, our actuals were 8,000. Last year they were 8,750. So that's why it looks as though someone's not.
So there was some changes. Where is the stipends?
It's 120.
We did have an increase in the stipends,
Okay.
and that may be what is showing.
Wasn't the deputy
Because
not getting
last-
The deputy may have not been receiving a stipend.
Yeah,
So
I
we
think
did,
changed it last year.
and so we increased her stipend. I think she receives $2,000 a year.
Well, that's what it says here. And year to
Treasurer's-
date, we've paid 8,250.
Yeah.
So that's why it seems like.
So what's the typically hourly commitment or weekly commitment for those roles?
So they usually, both the treasurer is here pretty much, I would say 6 hours on Tuesday.
Okay.
Is the day for when they come in and sign payroll and sign checks. And then throughout the week, it's hit or miss when there are certain things that the treasurer will need to come in to move some funds. Most of that can be done electronically. Sometimes you still have to go to the bank. The deputy will come in on Tuesdays as well, but probably spend 4 hours,
Okay.
not the full 6 hour day.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on accounting? All right. Moving general governmental facilities, 4194.1.
All right, so let's see. The first increase you see is the fire station. Electric is for the town hall and police station, and now we've added the old fire station. So all of that resulted in a $1,900 increase. And the same for the propane. We've rolled in the old fire station into this budget.
That makes sense.
And I do expect that once we get this 2019 over with, that you'll see a decrease again for the old fire station electric and heat.
So the Historic Society, based on that, they reimburse that?
They
Okay.
pay, they reimburse the town for the monthly fee. So then the next big increase is gasoline. This gasoline account, this is town-wide. This is the regular fuel and the pumps at the highway garage. So all departments use this fuel. And we're just changing it from $2.25 a gallon to $2.50 a gallon. Consumption still staying the same as last year.
And we do not pay federal tax.
We do not pay, we pay no tax. We don't pay taxes, so.
All right, so that's really the equivalent to like 280 something.
We do pay a transportation fee.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, let's see. I think that brings us down to street lighting. 4316.3.
I believe there's, for whatever reason, looking at my spreadsheet, I determined that we could reduce that line by $250.
Okay.
I don't know. I just
That's what the
take I
spreadsheet
do
said.
look at these accounts, all the electric accounts, and I look at them
I know, but I just see my
and
electric.
based on
bill
my
go
run
up.
rate. And no, but again, I'm trying to get based on if I stick to my method,
Mhm, no,
it should eventually be spot on. I'm still tweaking.
all right. Have we looked at moving to more energy efficient bulbs, ballasts, whatever?
There is a program now. I mean, I know we have this discussion every year, and it's been a while. It took Eversource some time to come up with their program. But in talking with MRI that's doing the highway DPW study, one of the findings was that definitely now is the time to start working with Eversource and taking advantage of their program to convert to LED lighting.
Okay.
So
And we just
that program's only been around, I understand, for maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
Because 3 years ago we finished the street light. We
You
upgraded
probably
the
did the
lights
high pressure sodium conversion, whatever it was, yeah.
which was a savings for us at that time. Now, 3 years later, something new.
Oh, do we pay per apparatus or, because we're not, those aren't metered. There's no metering.
Yeah, that's right. So there is,
Is it just? per
in real
device?
simple terms, there's like a fixed fee, but it's not. It's based on, they have
'Cause it's not
formula
usage.
based on energy consumption per every day of the year based on, the hours of.
We pay per,
Light
we
and
pay
whatnot.
per the light
Yeah.
based on their formula, basically.
Right. And, you guys are using the sodium ones or something?
Yeah, there's probably, I noticed there's a couple different types out there because you can tell by the color of the light.
Do they offer a discount for going to the LEDs?
So what would happen, I haven't looked into the program, but normally what would happen is you'll end up paying some money towards the conversion, but the energy savings, they'll use that savings to finance the cost of installation. The thing that's changed in the old days when you changed out your street lights to a new energy efficient light, as I understand now, when you do your conversion to LED, Eversource is then not going to be responsible for the maintenance of the light, whereas today they do change the light bulb out for us for free, but well, we pay for it.
Yeah, part of the service charge.
So, but I think the theory being that they really want to get out of the maintenance of streetlights, and
makes sense.
obviously LEDs,
Should last.
very
long.
low maintenance.
All right, welfare vendor payments. 445.2.
So this is the placeholders that we've had for the past few years, and they're all as you see we have if we have a citizen, individuals or families that are in need of assistance, typically very basic needs for medical services, electric, heating, food, housing, transportation, even funeral costs, which by state law can only be cremation, and there's an actual cap, I think, of no more than $800. So we've been very, very fortunate the past couple of years. The activity's been really low. In fact, I think this budget used to be $1,000 or $18,000 back in 16 or 15. So the last 2 years we've held it at 10. I think it's one of those budgets that you're always tempted to try to reduce it, but then you could cause that yo-yo effect where then you have a year that you have activity and then you're looking to replenish it, kind of like the discussion we had with the ambulance fund.
Well, it's like, could we not do a fund for it? Because to me, one of the things I have with this is because you go through a year where you spend $2,000, which means there's $8,000 still out there that then gets rolled into the general fund. If you had a fund that was dedicated to this, then that money's there for that purpose. And then that way, when you don't spend the $8,000 that year, it's still there for that purpose. So it's just one of the reasons why I don't care. I know people are like, there's too many funds, but this kind of situation, you underspend it every year. It just then goes into the general fund, which is not the reason why we tax for that money to begin with.
Which is why I say shave it as close as reasonable. And it's a function of the economy. You know, as the economy's gotten better, the usage has gone down. In 2014, we had a little over 8,000. 2015, it dropped to 4,500. 2016, it dropped to 4,000. Last year, it was 1,500. Right now, year to date, we're $438. So it's a function of the economy. And right now,
so if we don't spend another dime, that's $9,500 that would get rolled into the general fund. If we had a fund that it stayed in, you could not put any money in it for a couple of years.
No, I say
or put in $1,000 or $2,000.
Cut it in half and don't raise the taxes for it at all if nobody needs it this year, and then you see what happens next year.
Yeah, but so then it gets rolled. It's not there though. Then so you have to continually raise that money every year. Whereas if you had a fund, it's there. You could not add to it one year.
But you're raising it now. You're raising.
I'm already raising it.
That's why I'm saying cut it back now to what you expect to spend. And then if the economy worsens next year, you bump it up what you expect to spend. You budget for what you expect to spend. You don't cushion it, in my opinion.
No, and I hear you, but like this is one of those you never know, and then people get people get sensitive about cutting this one.
Mm-hmm. Any one of us is one or two, some kind of tragedy away from needing it.
And we're obligated to.
Yes.
Assist. So we have to come up with the money some way. If there's nothing in this fund.
So my thing is that we raise $10,000 every year, but we don't spend anywhere in the past couple of years anywhere near that. So I'd like to keep the money dedicated to that purpose. Cut it to $5,000, still put it in the fund, and then if it's next year you put $1,000 in, you put in nothing, depending on what the economy looks like. But that money is still set aside for the purpose for which it was appropriated, and not rolled into the general fund. That's just, it's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. But like you said, one mortgage around here, if somebody is in trouble, one mortgage payment, some food, and a hospital bill, and you're already wiped out.
Oh, it's the home. If you end up with a family or a single parent with some children, homeless situation, that's when you can start running up a cost, real fast. It's very difficult to find housing for a homeless family.
So I have no problem with the amount of the money. My issue with it is just that it gets reappropriated every year and then rolled into the general fund. So just continue the appropriation, but dedicate it to that purpose. And is it a revolving fund at that point? It revolves the next year.
Yeah, you would create an expendable trust fund for this purpose.
Yeah,
and
then you wouldn't have to.
Then you would monitor it, and if like the years that you don't expend any funds, you don't take any action. If you spend $8,000 out of it one year, the next year the warrant article to put the $8,000 back.
Yeah. All right, but that's not what we're voting on here. So
but
take that under advisement, and we'll figure that appropriate number out then.
We're discussing it all.
I hear what you're saying, Carrie. Yeah, I hear you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Patriotic purposes, 4583.1.
Sum it up. No changes.
It's a lot of money. And we are over budget this year. I don't know what we did different.
Yeah, we did,
Big
did a few extra things this year. I can't remember what they were, but those costs should not reoccur next year.
With the flagpoles and stuff.
It's something, I think it was something to do with flags. And
Yeah.
The new sign that they didn't
No,
quite
that-
put
No.
level.
Welcome.
No, wasn't that. All right.
Welcome to it.
Conservation Commission,
Flags and
4611.
welcome sign.
Ooh.
Oh, sorry, conservation.
Conservation, yep. And I have a question. What is the property management and why?
Property management, the account number 430.
Yeah.
So this line is for the Conservation Commission to do improvements to the different conservation areas they manage. So it's primarily, you would hear them saying they want to, maybe buy materials to replace a small bridge that goes over a wet area, a trailhead sign, new signage within the conservation area. They do some trail work, so it might buy some hand equipment
Or
tools.
rent a hedgehog.
Yeah, I know they've really been looking for doing some mowing.
So does the prisoner
Some-
program then tie in?
Well, that in the past they were able to use the prisoner program, but that program's just not reliable anymore. So,
I was trying to figure it out because the actual for 2017 is $352. Year to date, we've spent a little over $100, but they're
Yeah.
bumping it up by $300, and I don't even see us coming close to spending what's being
One of
budgeted.
the things they're looking at this year is actually mowing the Moores Falls and doing improvements to there's one example of the Moores Falls conservation area on 3A. And so they probably by year end will spend all of that line, all of the $1,300 to $1,200 that they have now. There's an effort right now. They've got some younger blood on the Conservation Commission, and I know there's a big effort in 2019 to make some improvements down at the Birch Conservation Area.
Okay.
Matt Lepore is taking
Right.
that thing on, and he's going to be trying to really do some work down there.
Did we not have a warrant article a couple years ago though that allowed for conservation funds, that their trust fund to be used for maintenance?
So they have a trust. They receive land use change tax funds. 80% of the funds go to the Conservation Commission, and the other 20% goes to the general fund. That 80%, their revenue could be used for this purpose. They could be used for maintenance of property, but they like to use it for.
Well, of
I
course.
thought there was a limit though. I thought they had they're forced to use it at $1 million. I thought $1 million mark. I thought it was.
So there is a cap, I believe, on the amount that they can have in the fund.
Right.
Once they hit that cap, I don't believe that the land use change tax funding goes into the fund anymore.
Right. No, there was. I believe there was a warrant article a couple years ago that was approved that expanded the use of the allowable use of that
Yeah.
fund. So rather than, and we could debate whether
I've not
whether
read the
this is
warrant
the
article, but
place or it should be part of like the use of their fund. Because why did we have that?
But the
warrant
commission has to agree to do it. And that's they have other uses for that fund. Remember, that's the same fund they use to buy property,
Mhm.
Yeah.
continue to expand the commission's assets. But
No, I understand, but they requested the permission to be able to use it for maintenance. So
they didn't.
did
it
you
was a
guys do it?
tip, I think it was a petition.
No, believe the Board of Selectmen brought it forward. I
Okay.
believe it could have been a petition, but I'm pretty sure it was initiated by the board. If my memory doesn't fail me.
No, we could look it up. I mean, if people expected that fund would be used for maintenance, it's just something to think about. And we
Yeah,
have-
can we look up that
I will,
article
yeah.
just to kind of refresh our memories as to what it was for? Because it was in the last 5 years.
and I'm pretty sure it passed pretty well. So what was the expectation of people? Did they expect that these to start moving into that? Or do we continue to just essentially fund it and allow them to build their nest egg to buy land? It could go either way. And not that I'm opposed to funding it. I just want to make sure that we understand the intent of the voters.
And then the last item is debt service, 4711.1.
That one's easy.
That is kind of easy.
Oh, it's actually numbers this time. Oh, it used to be ones.
Placeholders.
This is basically the bond, and there was a schedule that was included, and it's essentially level funded over the life of the bond. It goes up and down just a tiny bit, but it's essentially
Kind of stable, yeah.
Yep. All right. Any last questions or comments on tonight's budgets?
The expanded conservation fund. So the warrant article was Article 13 in 2014. There was two warrant articles. The first warrant article was put the cap on it so that they can only have $1 million in their fund. The second one, which was Article 13, was to see if the town will vote to rename the fund, which has in the past been referred to as the as a town conservation. Yeah. Who writes these things? The Conservation Land Acquisition Fund and Conservation and Land Acquisition Fund to the Conservation Fund, and to confirm this fund may be used for all purposes authorized for conservation fund usage under RSA 36A, which I think defines that it can be used.
Yeah. So you rename the fund and then it's to be used in accordance with RSA 36A, which I do believe that statute allows maintenance of the property. Yeah.
All right. Something to look at. Any member input?
No, other than welcome to our new member.
Yes.
Thank you.
Glad to have a full complement. All righty. If there's no public input, there is public input.
2 hours later.
Appreciate your dedication.
I hung in there.
You did.
I hung in there. I was here last year for Tina. I would like to address the $600,000. I would love to know where that number came from, because I can tell you right now, we did not over budget by $600,000. The school year, this budget year ended June 30th. And we did not over budget by $600,000. So I'm going to ask the school board to write you a letter and give you the exact dollar amount that we had left over to return to taxpayers to lower the tax burden. So we have an exact number.
I believe we have that. I just don't have it in
But
front of
it's
me.
not $600,000. The way it made it sound like we put in a kindergarten, we had all this extra money, and we budgeted much tighter than that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I understand what you're saying. I understand. I'm just using the information that was presented here.
Okay.
So I would love to have, absolutely, please
Well,
send
we
us
could
that.
just send it to you again instead of digging through everything. So what you want to know is how much money is left over from the last year,
End of
2000.
the year that was used to offset the tax rate.
Well, if we're going to go that route, I'd love to know before encumbrances. Because,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
because that number can look a lot lower if we, once we factor in encumbrances. So the pre-encumbrance, money not expended.
Okay. And I'll make sure that we send it to you. We'll send it to Cindy.
Yep.
Michelle, are you writing all this down? Because I didn't bring a pencil.
Thank
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. If there's nothing more, we will meet back here next week, October 11th at 7:00 to go through the rest of the town budget.
Excellent.
Is there a motion to adjourn? It's been made. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Brian. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.